I'm broadcasting now. Hi, good evening and welcome to the Lan Party. I'm your host, Richard McMillan, and tonight I'm joined by Justin Clayton. And we're going to start off tonight with some news from Bethesda. Justin?
I join up with Ricky on the consoleagnostics.com, and this week's news has actually been developing over the past couple months. There's been news coming out of Bethesda. They're doing their first ever E3 conference, which is actually kind of big if you're a Bethesda fan like I am. In order for a company to do this, they dump a lot of money into basically a major advertising deal. They advertise all their new products. If you're not familiar what the Electronics Entertainment Expo is, it's a major conference and they dump a lot of advertising money. They let everybody know what their latest products are. The big news that came out this week, though, about it was they sent out a presser letting all of the major media markets know the start time and the finish time. And on the presser, they kind of did a mock invitation, and they had the theater that they were in, the inside of the theater, and inside of the chairs were photographs of their major characters like BJ Blazkowicz and whatnot, and Sebastian from The Evil Within, but noticeably missing, and that's what it has everybody talking. Noticeably missing was Vault Boy, and there's a couple different theories on it. One of them, which I don't like at all, is that they don't want to talk about Vault Boy, but the one that I am kind of feeling a little more compelled to agree with is the reason it's not Vault Boy isn't in the stands is because they don't have any information that they're going to be talking about as far as Blazkowicz and Sebastian. So Blazkowicz and Sebastian and these other characters are in the stands, and they're looking up at the stage at the characters that they have that aren't in the stands, like Vault Boy and maybe some of the other lesser known characters that they have, kind of alluding, saying that they have an announcement of a Fallout announcement coming.
Excellent. So that's good news for Bethesda fans then. Now, in other news, Square Enix have been, over the past week or so, teasing a new game using a fade-out effect on a website. It turns out that game, which they confirmed on Friday, was and you'll probably be able to find these on the internet right now. In fact, today they've released some images from the game, and I for one can say beyond any shadow of a doubt they are the best looking game images I have seen of this generation. And that's a big thing to say when you look at some of the graphics in some of the games. For instance, the remastered version of The Last of Us, I thought that was gorgeous, and the obligatory Grand Theft Auto as well was fantastic looking. But Star Ocean 5, which appears to be only going to be available on PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4, that's not to say it won't come out on the Xbox consoles or be available on Steam. But right now it's looking good for PlayStation in the future, especially with Star Ocean. If you're into your Japanese RPGs, or your JRPGs as they're known, then this is the game for you. The first couple of games were exceptionally successful, especially in their homeland of Japan, but the European audience and the North American audience have been screaming out for JRPGs all the way since PlayStation 3, because there wasn't that many. But the Star Ocean series will fill that need in. And I suppose we now have to take the time to talk about what everybody's talking about, that being the reveal of Star Wars Battlefront on Friday by EA and DICE. Justin, what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, just cut out there.
Oh,
a quick sec.
What are your thoughts on Star Wars?
I'll patch you up.
Overly excited. I mean, you have not only one of the greatest franchises of all time coming back to consoles, but it's coming back in one of the greatest games that they've had, which was the Battlefront series, and it's coming to next-gen consoles. Definitely excited about that, especially since Episode 7's coming out this year.
Yeah, I thought the trailer was, it was fantastic to look at, and the release date is a month and a day, I think, before the movie, and I think that's only because the movie's being released, obviously, on the Friday, a week or so before Christmas. But the game definitely 100%, it looks fantastic. If there's one thing I'm disappointed with, is the fact that there's no real coherent story. It's more a series of missions. I would have preferred, a story-based version of it as well as the mission-based multiplayer. So I can see that they're maybe going to be taking the Battlefront series, because I think this will be the first in a good few Battlefront games that EA and DICE will release. I think they're going to take the Battlefront series as a competitive kind of series, a very loose storyline and with a major emphasis on cooperation, which is a hallmark of DICE since the Battlefield series.
Yeah, and they're really good at it. I know they had a rough launch with the Battlefield 4, but I recently picked it up, and I know it's been, year and a half, 2 years since Battlefield 4, whatever it's been, but now playing it, it runs great. It's a fun game to play, and if they do it anything like Battlefield 4, where they have their reward system built in and their kind of character building, character growing type system built in, I think it'll be, as far as a Battlefield type game, I think it'll work. But pretty much all you have to do is just say Star Wars, Star Wars DICE, and people will buy it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can then add on to the end of that, Battlefront, people will buy. It's that simple.
Oh, yeah.
And that was on PlayStation 2. The one other thing is, and I think a lot of people are disappointed with this, is the fact that there's not going to be any space battles, even though there was in the PlayStation 2 version. Now, going back to a point you touched on, PlayStation Lifestyle were asking what people would like to see in Battlefront, and I replied to them with, the persistent leveling up a la Battlefield. And I hope that, like you says, they have something like that, because it gives you something to work towards with a character. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's no classes going to be in the game, so it's not going to be like Battlefield from the respect that you've got support class, your medic, your assault class, your engineer. It's going to be more, if you're playing as a rebel, you're a rebel, you've got certain weapons, there'll be unlocks, that sort of thing. And if you play for the Empire, you'll have access to the Imperial weapons, and you'll have to unlock them, that sort of thing. Plus, of course, it's got Darth Vader. And
I mean, any game that lets you play as Darth Vader, I'm on board.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know anyone who wouldn't be. I mean, how many times have you went to, you're going into a shopping centre or a shop or, anything like that, and the next thing, it's got the automatic doors, so you wave your hand in front of it, pretending you're Darth Vader or Obi-Wan or someone, for when you seen it way back in the day. And it really was I do really like the trailer, and it was made with in-game assets, which is astonishing because the level of detail was exceptional. But again, with DICE using their proprietary Frostbite engine, I can see, I can see the potential in a Battlefront series that DICE are doing, especially as, to the best of my knowledge, it's got the third person and the first person views in it. So,
Yes, I did read that it's doing first and third. One of the things that I and you probably correct me if I'm wrong, but this is current gen only. Like it's not PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, is it?
No, not as far as I'm aware. It's this gen. It's current gen Xbox One and PlayStation 4, as well as being on the PC, as far as I'm aware.
And now I know this may garner a few a few enemies my way, but I'm excited about that because I think uh, games recently that could have been bigger, and I'm looking at you, Destiny, were hindered because of them being held back due to being stuck on last gen because they wanted the extra. They didn't believe in the amount of sales that the systems would be getting. So they made it on neck. They put the money into putting it on previous gen, and they sold it. I don't know how well last gen Destiny sold, but I'm pretty sure that if people bought it to be serious about it, they probably bought it on current gen. But when you remove that kind of that hindrance from the situation like they're doing with Battlefront, I think the game's going to be able to excel even further because you're actually going to be able to see what DICE can actually do on a next gen system because they were held back a bit with Battlefield 4 because they released it on PlayStation 3 and 360. So that's one thing I'm excited about.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree there. I mean, I'm a big Battlefield fan. Always have been. I've played Battlefield games for years. And the one thing that I will say is that I didn't call Battlefield 4 Battlefield 4. I called it Broken Field 4. It was an extreme, like you says, it had problems at launch. It was an extremely bad launch that the game had, and that's something that I think we'll touch on in another show. But a lot of games this gen seem to be having bad launches, and it is the games that are released across multiple formats. Now, I'm not advocating, the abandonment of the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3, but if the developers, like for instance DICE, are going to develop for next gen consoles, then they have to make a choice. Do we develop for next gen first and port it across for the, shall we say, the lesser consoles, or are we going to start developing?
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to. It's a major sacrifice, I think, that you're going to make, and I think it hurts. It hurts not only the fans of whatever series you're making, or you are DICE and you have fans of your work. I think you're hurting them by inhibiting the games to last gen technology because you can only go so far. Take I mean, they did the same. They did or take what's it called? For example, Dying Light. It was a game that was supposed to be on both current and last gen, and then at last minute they're like, "Sorry guys, you're kind of beat. We're just going to sell it on current gen because we can't make the game that we want to make." And I think that takes big balls that a lot of developers or publishers aren't willing to have, but I commend them for it, and I think the product canceling out the previous gen.
Well, what is it they say? There's no success without risk. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping, and this is going to sound really selfish, right? But I actually hope that Battlefront does only get released on this gen. Right? That way we'll get a game that we want, the way we want it. Now
Yeah.
I was discussing DLC with someone earlier on. Bear in mind that is an EA game, so there will be DLC.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's everybody's in that game now. I mean, you can't even. I don't even see Project CD Red. They're doing DLC, even though they're giving away half of it for free. They're still having 3 add-on packs that they're selling for $25 a piece. So everybody's in that game.
Yeah, exactly. Now, primarily the discussion was suggestions. Again, it was a question that had been asked by PlayStation Lifestyle, and what they were actually asking is, what kind of things can we expect to see in Battlefront? Will there be any similarities to Battlefield? And I think the most glaring of all the similarities is the fact that, it's the same development team. But
Yeah.
that's not to detract from what they've done. I mean, it looked spectacular. But DLC-wise, I can see Space Battles being part DLC. So we'll get to be able to do the Battle of Yavin 4, and do the Death Star Trench Run and all that.
Maybe. I mean, I would love it. I would love to do the Death Star Trench Run. But if it means that they get to take the time and make the game, the ground game, as best as best as possible, because when a lot of people, or a lot of my friends that I played Destiny with, they had problems with the fact that there was no space battles, there's no boarding of spacecraft and all this other cool stuff that you would imagine would be in a sci-fi game that any company that the company's claiming is the next great thing. They were basically saying it was,
Enemy light assault in the area.
I don't know, like
Yes.
just the greatest thing that plays it knows it's not, but it still holds a place in my heart. But it's not the greatest thing that they imagine it to be. But it's the first one, and that's the way I'm looking at that Battlefront. DICE, they haven't dealt with Battlefront before. This is what, the third one. The last company that worked on it, when Lucas was it Lucas Interactive, Lucas Arts, when they worked on it, they did the first one, and then they said, well, what if we add this to the next one, and what if we add this, and that's what I think DICE is looking at. They're basically looking at going to be doing your core combat, make sure that works, make sure their net code stuff works, make sure all of the important under the engine, or under the hood stuff works before they start getting fancy with space battles and all that other stuff. And I think that's the right way to go. Would I love to see it in DLC? Yes. I'd rather see it in DLC, in a DLC pack, and I would pay for it, but I'd rather see it in a DLC pack than at this late in the game that them conceding to fans and baking it in there, because I think it would be half-assed and nobody would really like it. But if they did it in a DLC and they said, hey, look, here's Trench Run, here's just some star system that you could just fly around and fight in, and they did stuff like that, and it was actually done in a way where it was a separate pack, and it felt like an expansion, like old school expansions, where it actually added meaningful content, then I would love that. But if they just kind of bake it on at the last second, I think it'll be a mess and it won't work.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. I believe that the space battles, if they do, and that's bear in mind, if they do bring it into the game, they have to bring it in once the game is, once the ground aspect of the game, once they've worked out all the wee niggles that all these games seem to have at launch and that sort of thing. Whether it's netcode issues or whatever, I can't see there not being a time in the next couple of years where a game has a perfect launch. Especially if it if it has an online aspect to it, and a big online aspect. And I think that's the main attraction with the new Battlefront. People know that they're going to be able to fight in the Star Wars universe as Boba Fett or Darth Vader, possibly Luke Skywalker, it doesn't matter who, but they're going to be able to do that. And they're going to want to do that. And that's what EA and DICE should be aware of, and they should be aware that people are going to want to do the things that they see Luke Skywalker and Han Solo do. I mean, I would love to take the Millennium Falcon through an asteroid field and down the gullet of a giant space worm. But
and they could easily sell, this is the space battle pack. They could sell that for $30, and everybody would buy. Everybody would buy.
Yeah, I'd be first in the queue.
I don't even like air combat, and I would buy it just to do, like, say, oh, hey, you know what? We went and we talked to, George Lucas, or we talked to whoever, and I mean, I'm not huge on the lore of of Star Wars. I like the core set stuff. I like the first 7 and I'm sorry, the first 6 and the Clone Wars
Yeah.
TV show. But I'm not deep into it where I know every tiny little aspect. But if say they said, hey, you know what? Guess what? We're doing the Kessel Run. You could do it, and they actually get the approval from Disney or whoever, and they create the Kessel Run, and you get in the Falcon and you do it.
Yeah.
People would spend $30 just for that.
Yeah, that's something I never even considered. Is the Kessel Run? Yeah, bang on, bang on. Now I suppose we should talk, obviously, with it being the Star Wars Celebration weekend that the Battlefront trailer was, released. I suppose we should talk about the actual teaser trailer number 2 for episode 7. I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but I'm excited. I'm really excited for this movie. When it was first announced that J.J. Abrams was directing, I didn't think that was a good idea. But after reading an interview with him and watching the wee teaser reveal of the alien last year, when he was on the planet that I now know is called Juka instead of Tatooine that everybody thought it was. After watching that and after seeing the first teaser trailer and now the second one, I'm ecstatic that J.J. Abrams cares. To me, this is Star Wars. I personally don't like episodes 1 and 2.
I don't think anybody could say that they like them. I mean, but I appreciate them for what they are. I mean, they set up, they set up the story. They set up certain things that I think they're kind of like they're nice little filler. I don't think that it was worth the $12 I spent in the movie theater to go see them, but it was nice little lore stuff. That it was interesting, and for the time being, when I saw it, I was angry. But looking back on it, I can go along with it. I'm gonna buy the digital set. I'm gonna watch all 6 back to back. I'll enjoy myself. I'm not gonna take it so serious like I used to, and be angry like, oh, George Lucas ruined my childhood. But it's it is what it is at this point. I don't like certain characters, but there's certain characters in movies I don't like.
Jar Jar Binks.
And there's but not everybody likes Elijah Wood's version of Frodo.
Exactly.
So it's like you have to take the good with the bad. Do I think it sets up what the Empire is, how the Empire got into power, how Senator Palpatine became Emperor Palpatine and all that? I think it does a good job of that. I just think there's a lot of other stuff going on that just was confusing and didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I'm still excited for it, and I'm excited for 7. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're alluding to episode 7 isn't going to be like 1 and 2, where you don't think anyway. It's not going to be like 1 and 2 where you're just watching and you're feeling a drag, like there's something wrong with this. It just feels like Abrams has it, and he's going to be doing it right.
Yeah, he's definitely got it right. I mean, the wee robot that you see in teaser trailer 1, they actually built that. It can actually do those things.
Yeah.
I know that J.J. Abrams doesn't like to use a lot of CGI. I know that. And so that wee robot, at the Star Wars Celebration, they had the wee robot on stage with R2-D2. Now, I couldn't tell you if there was an actor inside R2-D2 or if it was a remote control R2-D2. But they had this wee robot doing, the wee robot things it does, like rolling along and that sort of thing. And I was like,
man,
do you know, they care. They actually care. And I'm so excited for the movie. You wouldn't be able to tell because of my voice, but I'm exceptionally excited for the movie. I think it's the first time I'm ever going to go to the cinema to watch a Star Wars movie and cosplay it, because I'm going with the kids. So You know, they'll want to
Yeah,
dress
I'm
up.
gonna next year. I'm gonna the oldest one will be old enough to go see Star Wars. So, or I'm sorry, not next year, the 2017 movie. So episode it's yeah,
Oh,
supposedly episode 7,
yeah.
or I'm sorry, episode 8 is going to be the one where he'll be old enough. If they're, I think they're doing one in 16, aren't they? Didn't they say they were doing like a Boba Fett movie or something, or is that just
There's
complete rumor?
from what I believe, there's going to be 3 spin-off movies: Han Solo, Yoda, and Boba Fett. So, but we maybe find out what race Yoda actually is. You know, because
They got to do a young Han
I
or
think
Harrison Ford.
I think it's going to be a young Han.
Okay.
You know, but that's debatable whether or not it's even viable them doing it. If is there any point? It doesn't matter. The canon
Yeah.
universe of Star Wars. It's been announced by Disney in the past, but I'll reiterate it here. The canon universe is the Clone Wars TV series, episodes 1 through to 6. And
Yeah, and well, I'm not like I said, I don't know a lot of the previous, lore, the extended universe stuff before Disney took over, but so I can't get burnt out by saying, by feeling like, oh, I just read all this stuff and learned all this stuff for no reason whatsoever.
yeah,
But I think it was good that they did that because it centralized everything, made things simpler for people and more accessible for people that don't necessarily either have the time or the knowledge that other extended stuff is there. So it's not like they're going into episode 7 thinking, or it's not like they'll be going into episode 7 and there'll be these characters that are fully fleshed out within the universe and people have no idea who they are,
yeah, exactly.
I,
Well,
I,
that's the thing that me and my friend were talking about. That exact point. You know, it does it. Even though the extended universe is there, and you can still go and get the books, you can still read them, and even though Disney themselves and Lucasfilm have said, some of the ideas from some of the books have been used in the Clone Wars TV series, even though they've said things like that, whether or not they use the extended universe, to me anyway, is a bit irrelevant. I've read all the extended universe books, the Yusun Vong, the 19 novels that make up the Yusun Vong series, the New Jedi Order, things like that. I've read all of the extended universe. I've read the Book of the Sith, the Book of the Jedi, and none of it matters. What matters is the fact that there is going to be a movie that is a direct sequel to Return of the Jedi that doesn't involve any of the political side that we've seen in episodes 1 and 2. It's going to be Star Wars the way Star Wars is meant to be for a modern age. It's not a reboot.
yeah, and I like that.
It's not a reboot. Let me just reiterate that. It's not a rework. It's not a reimagining. It's not a re-anything. This is a Star Wars movie for the modern age. Nothing more, nothing less. And hopefully Battlefront is going to be a Star Wars game for the modern era of gaming. Because I do genuinely believe that gaming does go through stages. It goes through eras, and those eras aren't necessarily connected to a generation of console or machine. I think those eras are more game type. For instance, I believe that right now we're going through the era of the shooting game. Every second game that comes out, you have to shoot things. Whether it be a first-person game, third-person, top-down. You have to shoot things in every game. Velocity X on the PlayStation. That's another game where you have to shoot things. Whether it's not in the ship, but once you're outside the ship, you get a big gun and you end up having to shoot things. So I think we're in the Battlefront. It has a pedigree to live up to in the Battlefield games, or DICE have their own pedigree to live up to, should I say, and they've had plenty of time to do it. So I'm encouraged by what I've seen. What I would like to see is destructive terrain, a squad type system, of some description, you know, some kind of cohesion. Persistent leveling up for your character, yes. Whether you need classes or not, I don't know, because if you're playing as a rebel, they don't really have classes per se, do they? You know, they have bands of soldiers. You know, they work, I think, a rebel, especially the Star Wars Rebellion, worked along the lines more of a militia than anything else.
We've locked down Amrish. Excellent work.
But that's, you know, just my thoughts. Now, we've run a long time talking about Star Wars.
Oh, we could talk about that all day.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about it all day. We'd end up quoting it and things like that, especially the trailer. I mean, I can do the whole Luke Skywalker, you know, the Force runs in my family. My father had it, I had it, I have it, my sister has it. You know, I can do the whole thing, you know. But I do have to admit, I had a slight tear in my eye when I heard, you know, Harrison Ford at the end saying, "Chewie, we're home." I was like,
Oh,
yes, yes.
Yeah, I was watching it. I was watching it with my wife, and I, you know, got choked up, and I was fist pumping.
Yes, exactly. I was like, yes, that's Han Solo. That is Chewbacca standing there. This is actually happening. This is the real deal. And I'm so looking forward to the game as well. And I hope, you know, it's EA, it's DICE. There's going to be DLC. You know, we could debate all day whether it's going to be space battles, or, you know, if they're going to introduce anything for the Old Republic, are they going to do this, they're going to do that. You can debate that all day, but at the end you're still going to have a Star Wars game that you're going to go out and buy. Whether it's whether it's going to be Game of the Year, like some people are saying it will be, on sales, if Game of the Year was judged on sales, then yeah. But Game of the Year isn't judged on sales, so no. And I wouldn't like to say right now what I think the Game of the Year is going to be, because what I think and what actually is generally are two different things. You know, I wouldn't like to turn around and say I think it's going to be this game and for it to be another game.
Hostile light assault troopers.
Well, I mean, look at Mordor. Nobody saw Mordor coming.
No,
I mean, people thought that was going to be a cool game, but nobody saw it as it was, you know, the game that it was, which a lot of people said Game of the Year.
Yeah, definite. I love the Shadow of Mordor game. Do you know, I actually like it that much that I've took my time playing it. You know, it's like a reward.
Take some ammunition.
I use it as like a reward. It's that good, and it's done by the same people who have released, you know, the Batman Arkham games, and that is a game.
Oh, it's done by Rocksteady?
Well, Warner Brothers Interactive. It uses the Warner Brothers engine. I am so looking forward to Arkham Knight. I'm not going to speculate here who the Arkham Knight is, as you know, there's no point. I'm not even.
I didn't get a chance to play City, but I still, you know, I heard about the finish, but I think it's still gonna. I think everybody's speculating on the same guy.
Yeah, see if I'm completely honest, I didn't like. It's not that I didn't like the Arkham games initially. It's just I felt they were lacking. You know, obviously Arkham Asylum's set in the actual Arkham Asylum, so you couldn't have vehicles in it. But Arkham City, that disappointed me, the lack of being able to drive the Batmobile, for instance. But now they're giving us that with Arkham Knight, and I am so looking forward to being able to jump out the Batmobile, punch a few guys, and then jump back in the Batmobile and go and find more guys to punch. I'm looking forward to that so much. You know, but it's one of the things.
I didn't get a chance to play like I said, I didn't get a chance to play City, but first time I played Arkham Asylum, I just fell in love with it, and I don't know what it was. It's just I felt it was right, and I'm not even a Batman guy. I'm more of a Marvel guy. So, but that got me into Batman, and that's, you know, I played City, and then I played Asylum, and I then spent the next 3 weeks looking up Batman lore.
All you had to do was ask me. I'd have told you practically everything. I love Batman. Batman's my favourite superhero, and I think it's because, you know, he's the only... I mean, you call him a superhero, but Batman doesn't have any superpowers. You know, he's the only hero. You know, if you had the money, you could be him.
Yeah.
You know?
And he can beat up Superman.
Yes, which I'm so looking forward to in another teaser trailer that was released this weekend. The Dawn of Justice, 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of places I saw online were just destroying it, saying, "Oh, you know, it's not right. You know, it's dark DC and it shouldn't be that way." And the way I look at it is DC has a vision, and they're seeing it through. It's not like they're half-assing what they're doing. You know, Marvel has their vision for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, MCU follows one timeline. It's all in, you know, what is it, like Marvel 19999999, whatever it is, and it all follows in that one universe. Well, DC's I think they're trying to do the same thing, but they want it to have that realistic feel. Like, if there really was in real life a Batman and a Superman, this is what would happen. And then of course they're going to base it off the Dark Knight Rises book, but and probably, you know, maybe a couple other books, but it's you got to see the whole thing through. I can't sit there and dog them on this trailer or this movie when you haven't seen the whole universe and how it's all going to come through.
Yeah.
I really liked what Christopher Nolan did with Batman. I thought it was new, fresh, and exciting. And then when now his name slipped my mind.
Zack Snyder.
Superman. Yeah, when Zack Snyder did with Superman, very similar. Now, granted, it was produced by Nolan, but, you know, very similar stuff. And I'm one of those anti-Superman guys, you know, because I think he's just a nerd that is way too powerful for his own good, so he's boring. You know, Batman has a weakness. Batman is, you know, borderline crazy, and he's a human being. He can be hurt. Superman, magic and kryptonite. Like, there's like 2 people in the DC universe that can hurt him besides Batman, and Superman's smarter than those 2 people, so it doesn't even really matter. So it's like that's why I could never get into Superman outside of the Christopher Reeves movies, but the Zack Snyder ones the Zack Snyder movie just blew me away. I was like, this movie's amazing. What they did with Zod, what they did, and then the ending. And I know Superman doesn't kill, but to have him do that, I think it made a statement that separates the DC comic books and the DC movies, and I think they needed to do that. So I think what they're going to be doing in Dawn of Justice is going to be good stuff.
Yeah. I think they are going to... Zack Snyder done Superman justice, shall we say. Pardon the pun.
Oh, yeah. He didn't do him injustice?
No, I think the
Segue to
game
Mortal
did
Kombat.
Yes, I think the game did that. And now we have to move on to the next thing, which was, as you're probably aware, folks, Mortal Kombat X, or Mortal Kombat 10, was released recently, and
yes,
we have a locally acknowledged kung fu expert to give us his impression of Mortal Kombat X.
As those who know me know that I am not only a former professional wrestler, I'm also a video game enthusiast. I'm terrible at grammar, but I also am a locally acknowledged karate expert, and as that, I've taken akin to the Mortal Kombat series, because it's very lifelike and very gritty, and pretty much what backdoor underground karate tournaments are actually like. So playing Mortal Kombat X, I have to say there's good. I mean, I've only been playing it since its release, since Tuesday, and I've gone through the story mode. I've done online stuff. I've gone through the crypt, and I would say everything in it just about is good. There's little quirks here and there that I can't say are any reason to not buy it, but overall everything's good. The story, I don't want to ruin it for you, but if you liked Injustice and you liked the Mortal Kombat 9 story, then and how it played out and everything, you'll understand how this is played out. What they do is they have cutscenes and then they cut to a fight, and you don't get to pick who you're going to be. They pick who you're going to be for you, and then they walk you through the whole story, and the production value is very high, and it's very nice. The thing I don't like about the story, and not to ruin it for anybody, but it just kind of stops, and there's unanswered questions at the end that really it feels. Now I can't tell if it has the feeling of they're going to sell the rest of the story to us in DLC, or they wanted to kind of lead on to another sequel that'll come out in another 4 to 6 years, because they're probably going to start on Injustice 2 after this, and then Mortal Kombat 11. So it's, which would be kind of, either or. I'm not too happy about the actual fighting mechanics. I love. If you like Mortal Kombat 9, you'll like this. If you love Mortal Kombat 9, you'll probably love this. You have basically the same setup as Mortal Kombat 9, except you get a run button, or a run meter, and you also get, each character gets 3 different variations. So from the bat, you get 25 characters with 3 different variations. So you really get, and I kind of agree with the argument after playing the game. The developers feel that you get you get 75 characters, which you do, because they play completely different, each character. And say you and I are playing, I have to kind of judge who I'm playing against, as far as character-wise, like depending on your variation, because each variation plays so differently that you need to defend it differently and you need to attack it differently. For example, Raiden, who's I've been playing with a lot lately. His three different variations are the main one that I use is Displacer, where he's able to use his teleport, which everybody knows has been in since the first one. You do your down up and then it teleports and whatnot. And he also has a spark port, where you can disappear and you can hold it down and then reappear when you choose. So you can kind of do a fake out on your enemy and disappear. He'll throw that uppercut thinking you're going to show up right in front of him. And then he misses. Then you show up and start your combo. You have your Thunder God, where you can you gain additional hits to your electrical attacks and whatnot. So you build, like, you chain along larger combos and whatnot. Then you also have Master of Storms, which you can set traps for. It seems very interesting. I haven't actually played Master of Storms yet. I did a little bit of training in it in the practice mode, but haven't gotten really too deep into it, because I'm not big into setting traps in fighting games. But it seems fun, and if you're into that, it's a very good style to go along with. The online, just like with Mortal Kombat 9, pretty much is hit or miss, whether it's working or not. Sometimes I play and it's working, sometimes I play and it's not. So it's really, I don't know if it's WB's deal, I don't know if it's NetherRealm Studios deal, whatever it is, it's just, I know they're supposedly working on it, but it's just not working right now the way it should be. There's lag, there's lag issues, there's just connection issues and whatnot, and a lot of stuff takes a long time to get into. Like, you go into online, and now you have to go through a menu, and it has to read everything, and it takes probably a good 15 seconds to do that. and then it goes into your stats, and then that's if everything's open and whatnot. There's also the faction setup. When you first start the game,
I was going to say, could you
Sorry?
explain that a wee bit?
Okay.
For...
yeah, when you first start the game, you pick one of 5 factions, and they're all related to the lore. You have the Lin Kuei, the Brotherhood of Shadows, the Black Dragon, the Special Forces, and the White Lotus. And they're all, if you know anything about the lore, then you'll know what they are and what they do. If you don't, then they have a brief description in the beginning. When you go in, you pick your faction when you first start it, and you then fight for that faction for that week. You can change your faction at any time, but you fight for that faction, and at the end of the week, if your faction wins, you get something. What it is, I don't know, because the week hasn't ended yet. But right now, I joined the Lin Kuei, and I think pretty much everybody else in the world joined the Lin Kuei, because who doesn't like ninjas that can freeze people? So right now, the Lin Kuei is up by 41%, and nobody else is even close. So when it's looking like when the Lin Kuei wins, the Lin Kuei people are going to gain something. There's also a section called the Living Towers, which are really, really cool, actually, because you have a daily tower, which is a grouping of challenges that changes every day. You have the Premier Tower, which is a grouping of challenges that changes once a week, and then the Hourly, which grouping of challenges changes once an hour. And what I mean by challenges is you either have fights, or you have the Test Your Might. And if you remember back, I don't know if you remember back in the old arcade, you would have in the original Mortal Kombat, you would have the Test Your Might, where you'd have to hit the buttons really fast and break some wood, and then break some concrete, and get all the way up to diamond and break that. If you were really good.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Well, that they brought that back, and you have to do that. And they also have a couple other things, but what the towers do is they add modifiers, and there's a bunch of modifiers. I've been unlocking them in the crypt nonstop, but they have modifiers in there like tilted screen, where it tilts the screen like up and down on an axis as if it's on a seesaw.
Yeah.
And they have they have a thing called high damage, where it takes the tilted screen, but say you're on the top of the seesaw, well, you're taking damage, and the guy on the bottom's safe, and then it starts tilting the other way, and then the other guy takes damage. So then there's this little battle of who's going to jump over who, and who's going to be able to slide underneath who to get on the bottom and that guy isn't taking damage. So there's a lot of things that they add in there that really kind of change up the way combat's done, which is very interesting and exciting.
So can you transition between each of the fighting styles that the characters have while in a match, or is that something that you have to choose just like your faction?
You don't have to choose it like your faction, because your faction you choose at the beginning of the game, and that's set until you choose to leave that faction and pick another faction. And you fight for that faction. When you pick your variation, you just pick that in the character select screen. So right now I'm in the character select screen. I pick over, and then I click on Raiden, and then it brings up 3 different variations that I can pick from: the Master of Storms, the Thunder God, and the Displacer. And then you pick that, and then you go into the fight as Displacer. Now say you fight your friend, and your friend Sub-Zero, and he beats you up, and you're like, man, I can't get him with Displacer, but I'm really good with Raiden, I know that, and he keeps attacking me hard, he keeps coming at me. Well, let me try Master of Storms. The next match I pick Master of Storms, and I start setting traps everywhere, and then I keep him from getting close to me, and then I end up winning. Well, then he picks a different version of Sub-Zero, because Sub-Zero has 3 as well, and then we could each go to all these different types of all these different variations on each character.
So do the variations have different, shall we say, combo buttons, or like for instance, if Raiden's first variation, say there's a combo that would be on like the PlayStation square, square, triangle, for instance, would that combination still be the same in the next variation, or are they?
Yes and no. Some guys are completely different, and one variation they don't. One variation isn't even close to the next, where they'll have like where basic combos won't even work the same. Other guys like Raiden, basic combos will work, but when you do your special moves to mix up in with the combos, they react differently. So like there's a combo that I've been working on where you hit the guy 3 times and it pops him up, and then you'll use an EX bar and hit him with your close lightning shot. So that, and then when you do the EX one, it pops him up again, and then you can hit him again with something else, and then I can eventually chain it up to 35% damage. But that's the only one that I can do that in, because the other, as far as I'm aware, I'd have to check Thunder God, but I know Master Storms doesn't have it. Or I'm sorry, I have to check Master Storms, but I know Thunder God doesn't have it. With Displacer, when you can EX certain moves, and for other variations, you can't EX those moves. So it changes the way you fight. Other characters, if you hit square, triangle, circle, well, that's not going to work on one variation just because it works on another.
That's
But generally, every character has a certain set number of special moves that work between all the different all 3 variations, and then they have variation-specific special moves.
all right. So there's
But
more.
then, like I said, some guys have combos that are related only to that variation.
So would you say that Mortal Kombat X is it an improvement on the previous games, or is there things that within the game can be as a gamer you would like to have seen done differently, or things like that? Does it have a steep learning curve? Would you?
Because they have the practice mode, and like if they didn't have a practice mode, I'd say yeah, it probably does, because then you'd have the computer coming at you at all times. But because they have the practice mode, as long as you're willing to take the time to put into it and learn it, then there isn't really a steep learning curve. Now, I go in and I play my friends, and I'm used to playing against the computer who plays a certain way, and now my one friend's playing a Sub-Zero, and he spams that freeze the entire time, and he beats me. Well, then I have to figure out a different character to use. So it's all based on the person, obviously. But if you're willing to put the time in and learn that other character that'll stop the spam, in some way, then you can, because of the practice mode, which I really enjoy that it has that, because we're fighting games that don't have a practice mode. I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and
Stay alert. Enemy heavy nearby.
But as far as anything that's missing, the only thing that I think is missing is I would say Stryker and Nightwolf, because I like doing fatalities on them. I just don't like those characters, so I like to kill them a lot. But other than that, everything else is great. The new characters play very well. They fit into the lore. They fit into that. They fit in atmosphere-wise. It's not like I don't know if you've ever played Deadly Alliance or Deception, where they brought in a few new characters that they didn't feel right. They were just kind of awkward. Well, these characters, the new characters, really feel like they're part of the universe, and they always were part of the universe.
excellent. So it's well worth getting then.
If you like fighting games, yes. If you like Mortal Kombat games, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, as you know, my copy's already pre-ordered. I just haven't got around to picking it up yet. But I'll be getting that as soon as I can get to the shop. Now, thanks for that, JJ. I've been playing PlanetSide 2 in its closed beta, and I have to admit that usually as a first impression, because that is really all you can do with a beta, is do a first impression, I would have to usually with a first impression I would be describing the gameplay and that sort of thing. Instead, I'm going to tell a story. Now, imagine a smoky bar where video games go to have a drink. And Killzone Shadowfall gets really drunk one night and takes Battlefield 4 home. 9 months later, they have a baby. That baby is PlanetSide 2. It looks like Killzone, and it feels like Battlefield, and the size of it is Battlefield scope. And when the beta test goes into open beta, the servers will be more populated. That means, other than more people to kill, it means it'll be more frantic. It'll be the way, I believe, Daybreak, who have recently broke away from SOE, I believe it's the way that Daybreak intended the game to be on the console. Do I like it? Yes. Am I good at it? Probably not, because I'm not the best in the world at shooting. And the beta test is just, it's the equivalent of Battlefield's Conquest mode. That in and of itself means, you can rack up lots and lots and lots of points for doing very little. But it does look exceptionally good. Now, I do happen to have this on PC as well. It's just I've only played it once or twice. On the PC. But I think it's a really good game. There's 6 classes. Each class has got you can have 4 loadouts attached to them. So, that's I'm not going to say it's 24 characters, because technically it's not. It's 24 loadouts per character, per faction. 3 factions in it: the Vanu Confederacy, the NC, and the people I'm playing as just now, which is the Terran. All the factions all seem to be balanced. Each have got, the weapons have got different names, but they do the same thing. You point them at somebody, you shoot them, you hope they die before you do. Standard fare for a shooter, but this one's got potential. There's the air vehicles, tanks, everything you would expect in, say, a Battlefield game. They've got in this, only on a much larger scale, and it looks, and it does genuinely have, to me anyway, it has a look of Killzone. And the other beautiful thing about it is it's going to be free to play and free to download, which is always a good thing. I don't know if you've had a chance to actually get a hold of it yet, JJ. But
that the code that you sent me actually worked.
All right.
And I played it, and I agree with you 100%. It's Killzone and Battlefield had a baby. I think the game is one of the most interesting games that I've played in a long time. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's frantic, and you die a lot because there's people on there that are just really good. But and I'm terrible at shooters. But I see where they're going with it, and what when you have a large amount of when you have full servers, or they do mega servers. So when you have full maps, when you have the 3 armies running around attacking different points and all that other stuff, and it's full of people. I see how fun the game's going to be.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he's big into shooters. He's the one that talked me into getting Battlefield 4, and 2 years after it came out, and I picked it up and loved it. And this is something that he would absolutely love. And when I think about how he looks at shooters, he looks at it like how the strategy wise, where can I go, where can I hide, how can I attack this point, what vehicles should I use to attack this point and everything, And when we play Battlefield, I play support to him. He kind of like we play in a squad, and he'll tell will tell the other two guys in our squad, along with me, where to go, what to do, and all that other stuff. And we're not one of the best squads out there, but we're pretty effective when it comes to conquest mode. And I think this is something that, he, along with a couple other people that I play with, could really sink our teeth into, because it's free to play. Now in the beta, I know you didn't mention this, but in the beta they pretty much give you all the weapons for free. But I'm sure you're gonna have a way to a long road to unlock all the weapons.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm running around with some kind of golden assault rifle that just does like magic damage. I mean, it's way overpowered for the level that I'm at. But when I look at what the game can be and what it's aiming to be, I see huge potential, and it makes me think of the other game that they're working on, and I can't wait till it comes to PS4, and I hope it still is coming to PS4 now that's not SOE, but which is H1Z1.
The zombie
But-
MMO.
Yeah, it makes me think of that, and how good that game could be if this game is this good. And I'm more into, if I'm going to be playing a first person game, I'm more into like something like H1Z1, where there would be a lot of strategy and whatnot built into it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to H1Z1 as well. This is, I really, really do like PlanetSide. I mean, as I said, shooters aren't my preferred game of choice. I prefer, your RPGs, that sort of thing, or third-person games like your Grand Theft Autos. But I really, really like PlanetSide 2, especially on the consoles. It feels right on a console. That isn't to say it doesn't feel right on the PC.
Yeah, they've been saying a lot. I know before they became Daybreak. So I don't know if John Smedley still works for them, but when they were with SOE, I remember they would do a lot of interviews and special interviews with PlayStation blog and stuff like that. And Smedley said a lot of times he would say, we're just trying to get that console feel down. We're just trying to get the UI right for console, and I think they did. I think they got it right, because it feels like a computer game because of its size, but it plays like a console game, which I'm not, and I know people love their PCs, but I'm a console guy, and you either are or you aren't, and I love console, and I think this game, when it launches, will fill that urge that a lot of people have, where for a deep shooter that that's on a console that feels like a console. Like, take Blacklight. That it's a free to play game on PlayStation 4. I don't know, is it in your area?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you played it?
Yeah.
Well, to me that feels like a PC game on a console. It doesn't feel like a console shooter. Where PlanetSide, in the beta that I played, it feels like a console shooter.
Do I've never actually looked at Blacklight like that, but yeah, you're right. See, thinking about it, it doesn't feel right. Sometimes, like with Blacklight, when you turn, even if you've put the axis sensitivity down, when you turn, you still turn too quick.
Yeah, it's just, there's something off about it where it doesn't feel right.
If there is something about the controls that they have to change with PlanetSide, it's, other than the extremely difficult to master aerial vehicle controls, the one thing that they do have to fix, I feel, is the tracking. Like, if you're tracking a target over distance, you never seem to be able
so hard.
You never seem to be able to get your sights in front of them, so that they're running into the shot. Which, I don't know if it's a deliberate thing. I know that it doesn't feel that way or quite that way on the PC, but that's not to say this is only a beta, and we had the first update for it the other day. There's probably going to be more updates down the line for launch. So I'm hoping that by launch, all these wee niggles and things like that are fixed, and we've got a game that's a worthy, child Battlefield and Killzone. Because I enjoy Killzone. I enjoyed Killzone's multiplayer. I thought it was a lot of fun. Battlefield, myself,
Yeah, I liked it too. It was. I don't think a lot of people gave it the credit it deserved, but it was fun. What little I played of it, I played it. I put probably maybe, I'd say probably about. It was enough for me to get a good feel of it, and I liked it. I liked it a lot.
yeah. Oh, I
But
like
I'm terrible at first-person shooters, so.
Yeah, but that's the same with myself. I mean, when I played Battlefield, and that, listen to me, I'm talking as I'm a retired soldier, When I played,
Yeah.
with Battlefield, I played with a particular group of people. It was, a platoon. As soon as you introduced the platoon system in Battlefield 3, we had our own wee platoon, as you do. And we loved the whole fun aspect of being able to play together. The problem with Battlefield was they ruined it themselves with, just the pure terribleness of Battlefield 4. And that's not to say, that it's a terrible game. It's that the way it was released, it wasn't release finished.
Yeah.
I think they panicked because of the new Call of Duty that was coming out that year.
Yeah, I think they were scared of Call of Duty. I think EA was scared to not be on the launch floor, and I don't think that they had the balls to delay. And I think now they will. I don't think if Star Wars isn't ready, it's going to get delayed. But I think it's ready.
Oh,
I
so do I.
don't think there's going to be any issues with that. But I think they would delay it if it wasn't ready.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Because they know what's going in. They knew going into Hardline that they had a huge obstacle to overcome. But we'll see.
Well, the strange thing was DICE didn't work on Hardline. It was Visceral.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, EA in general.
Oh,
Because
EA in general, yeah.
Because DICE can sit there and say all day. I mean, unless there's other things going on that I'm not aware of, but judging by normal corporate circumstances that I'm used to, DICE could say all day, "Hey, look, we need an extension on this thing. We need to delay this." And if EA doesn't want to invest the money in it, they're not going to do it. They're not going to delay it. They're going to say, "Well, make it work." And I think that's what happened. I don't think DICE wanted to put that out. I think maybe EA got a little arrogant and put it out anyway, and the servers weren't ready. They weren't properly tested, and it didn't go the way it was supposed to.
This area is restricted.
Yeah, I've got it.
And that's not judging. That's not any kind of insider knowledge or anything. That's just my speculation based upon how they came out and how they responded the next year at E3 when they just said, "Hey guys, look, we," without actually saying, look, we fucked up. They said we fucked up and this is what we're working on, even though none of it looks good right now. It's, because none of it's ready to be even pre-alpha. We're letting you see it because we're putting all of our cards on the table. We're not going to hide things from you people anymore. And I think Star Wars is going to be the fruit of that new mentality that they have, which was caused by years of The Sims, Battlefield, and other atrocious things that they've done. And I think Star Wars is going to be what really changes people's perception of EA, because one, it's Star Wars, it's sacred. You don't mess up Star Wars, and two, you don't mess up a Disney product, because Disney will have your head on a stick.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a theory about why Disney actually bought Lucasfilm and Star Wars. I think Michael Eisner went to the cinema to watch Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skulls, seen the ending of it, and went, nah, no having it.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's a habitat, because they're so with the you go down to you go down to Disney. I don't know if you've ever been to Disney World. You go
No.
down to Disney World in Florida. There used to be they just shut it down for I think they actually shut it down for the Star Wars for the Star Wars portion. But they used to have a giant Indiana Jones stage show that you could watch, and it was really good. And they had a Star Wars section. Now they've expanded, and now that they own Star Wars, they're expanding it, and they're kind of making it an entire like part of one of the parks, instead of just like a tiny little section in one of the parks. But I think you're right. I think they were like, well, look, we're associated with these things, and Lucasfilms has been dropping the ball on these things. We gotta and protect our own investment on this thing. So we're
Yeah.
gonna own it. I think
Yeah.
that's what happened. And I don't think Spielberg was willing to give away Indiana Jones, and that's part of the reason why there's no longer an Indiana Jones portion of their park. So
that's a point. And now you've mentioned it a few times, and I've mentioned it once or twice. I suppose we're going to have to mention E3. Now,
yes,
E3, for those of you
Visual
that
and
don't
hostile
know,
light assault
E3
trooper.
is the, shall we say, the WrestleMania of the video games industry. This is where everyone has their big keynote speeches, and they're telling us what their new games are for the coming couple of months or years. And there's lots of speculation. I mean, it's in June, so we're 6 weeks away. Lots of
Yeah.
speculation, and it all starts round about now. You mentioned something earlier about the lack of Fallout Boy at the Bethesda invites, or Vault Boy as he's called, and what that may mean. Could it be the announcement of Fallout 4? Hopefully.
yes,
But
hopefully.
more and more of this speculation will happen the closer and closer it gets to E3. One of the most interesting pieces of speculation that I've read this week concerns the Mass
Enemies
Effect
heavier in
series.
the area.
And
Yeah, I heard something about that.
now, personally, I don't know if it's 100% true, but a Reddit user made a post on Reddit where he claims that he was asked, he participated in a survey where Mass Effect, or the next Mass Effect game, was described to him, and it's a very vague, very broad outline about exploration generally, and how you end up collecting 7 colleagues and things like that. Very similar to the original Mass Effect games where you pick up, you get teammates, that sort of thing. So I don't know if it's 100% legit. I hope it is, because it would mean that we're either going to find out what happened before the events that were portrayed in the original Mass Effect trilogy, or it's going to be set after that. There's not enough information. There are people who've claimed to have screenshots and seen things, but no one actually knows. The only
Yeah,
people that
I
know
don't think anybody.
BioWare.
It's like all this information about Fallout coming out. People say, oh, it's going to be this or this or this. Well, let's wait until we have the information, because as much as I'd love to say, yes, this Fallout is set in MIT, and it's done this and this.
Yeah,
Well, who knows?
exactly. But I do believe that this E3, the speculation that leads up to it's going to be insane. I think people are going to start talking about, BioWare are working on a new RPG for the Star Wars universe, BioWare being one of EA's development companies. That sort of thing. More and more, the arguments are going to be intense about exclusivity and that sort of thing. And that was another strange thing for me with the Star Wars, with the Battlefront teaser, was the fact that it was the PlayStation 4 they were showing. The market material used was PS4.
I'm not surprised. I mean, you're going to do one of the two, and what's their names? Activision is so far in bed with Microsoft with the Call of Duty series that it only makes sense for PlayStation to jump on anything that EA is doing with Battle anything. You know, they and I know there's the EA Access, but so you'll get to play Star Wars first on Xbox, but I could see, and you know, we've had conversations in private about it. I could see there being a beta on. You know, I can see Adam Boyes walking out at E3 and saying, "Hey, just like last year, there's a beta." You know.
Yes, I completely 100% agree with that. I think PlayStation will get the better, and I think even though it will be released earlier on through EA Access, I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. I still
And that I don't even like the idea of, and it's not because I don't have an Xbox, but I don't like the idea of EA Access. I think it's stupid. I mean, I'm going to spend I spend all this money to play, you know, some extra games for free, which that's cool, but the early stuff is dumb. I would rather if they had it where it was like, hey, look, you become an EA, if you're an EA member, we're actually going to treat you right, and we're going to, you know, you're going to get this game early. You get this game, you get to play. We turn the servers on, and you get to play this game as much as you want 2 days before everybody else in the world gets to play it. You know,
Yeah.
well, that for me, that would be worth that right there. And if I was a big EA fan, you know, and I played a lot of EA games, that right there would make me pay the $30 a year or $60 a year, whatever it is, to do. You know, if I bought every EA game and all EA games came out early on Xbox, well, I would go out and buy an Xbox just to do that. And there's people that would pay that.
yeah.
But I don't get why they do. Oh, because the deal now is, it's EA Access, and you get to play this game early, but you get to play it for 6 hours. Well, how much of a game can I get for 6 hours? And then I get to wait 2 days so that way I can play it again?
Aye.
No thanks.
Yeah, exactly. I never thought the EA Access would be, you know, something that people would actually look at and go, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Maybe. On one side, aye. On another side, no so much. And well, folks, that's about all we've got time for this week. Next week we're going to be back. Hopefully we're going to have more gaming news, you know, more rumours in the lead up to E3. We're going to have a couple more first impressions of games, hopefully a review or two as well. And we will be discussing next week mental health in video gaming, whether it's something that the gaming industry recognises or whether it's even something that the gaming industry is helping or not helping, you know, holding people back, that sort of thing. We'll be discussing that in depth. Thank you for joining us. We are the Lan Party, part of consoleagnostics.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you.